You know, man, I've been thinking, I got these new arrows. It's probably time for a new location. Oh, for sure, man. Yeah, I think it gets real boring doing everything in the same place over and over again. Nothing crazy, you know, just somewhere in the forest, you know, do a ranger episode, something like that. On your left, hold on, hold on, hold on, hold on. How far are we talking here? I mean, there'll be a little walking. Yeah, you know, nothing too crazy. I think you can handle it. On your right, I mean, we're gonna have horses, right? Sure. I mean, yeah, why not? We can pretend to have horses. Trust me, you'll have an amazing time. You're gonna just not know what to do with yourself. Duck. If you make me walk, I swear, I'm gonna complain the whole time. Smell that, Sir Gaines? Sir Gaines? Sir Gaines? I'll find him later, it's not important. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, nerd and nerdettes. We are out today in the beautiful wilderness to talk to you about rangers, the fantasy ranger. To me, there's no truer hero than a ranger. When you think about heroes and stories in fantasy, there's the knight in shining armor. It's nobility and chivalry in charge of all other things. You have the mercenary rogue with a heart of gold who turns against his mercenary ways to save the people. But to me, the one that's always been the truest form of what a hero would be a ranger. Whether that be the Dunedain Rangers, whether that be the Rangers from the Ranger's Apprentice, with Holt probably be my favorite ranger of all time in all reality. You have that selfless, noble person who doesn't look for accolades. The thing about a knight in shining armor is they're in shining armor, right? It's all about the pageantry and the heraldry. But the ranger operates from the shadows thanklessly. The Dunedain Rangers kept the Shire safe by keeping the wolves away and other orcs or other creatures away from what would destroy it without ever asking for things. And the hobbits never knew they were even there. The rangers from Ranger's Apprentice work in Erilun in all the different provinces with no real look for any sort of praise. They do what they need to do because it's the right thing and they protect the realm. And to me, that's the hero there. So we're going to talk about making the ultimate fantasy ranger, the loadout, the equipment, the different types of arrows. I'm going to go over the reasoning behind it. I have a bunch of different arrows, a bunch of different armor types to test to show you why, and we're going to figure out how to survive in the wilderness like a ranger. Let's start first with some stats. So when you think of a ranger, I think personally the most important thing if you're to build your character out is going to be endurance is number one. You're going to be moving over terrain for long periods of time, carrying equipment, carrying weight, and you're going to have to keep going. So endurance in that sense is going to be key. In a lot of games, endurance and fortitude are kind of a similar thing. So I'm going to pack that all together as endurance, stamina, fortitude, like as one stat, because that's going to be what you need to be hardy, you need to be tough to live on the land, and you need to be able to continue moving. So number one is endurance. Number two, I would say, would be intelligence. Not necessarily book smart, but understanding the resources at your disposal. So understanding if you get hurt or get a cut, what certain plants and things can help as well. So let's say you get a cut, you have the old man's beard or the lichen, where you can get that from the tree in order to treat wounds. Certain types of cedar, red cedar, that can help if you get athlete's foot, different injuries, understanding splinting, understanding what to eat, what not to eat, and more importantly, just having the intelligence to figure out when to engage and when not to engage. Next, after that, I'm gonna have to go with strength. Now this is gonna be the one where I'm really gonna die on this hill. I don't think dexterity in the sense of climbing trees, moving around, and that type of dexterity is more important thing, because most of what you're going to do is slow and steady and methodical. And the bows you're going to use, you want them to be heavy duty. So I'm going to go over the bows as well, because I feel like each ranger should realistically carry 2 bows, your hunting bow and your war bow. Because even in medieval times, they had the delineation between what were hunting bows and war bows with draw weight. And we're going to do some armor testing to kind of show the difference between what that's going to look like. The lightest one I have is still like 130 pounds, but I want to show you the ability to aim and the ability to punch through stuff are going to be a little bit different depending when you get those really max high draw weights. So let's get into loadout. Now, a cloak itself is very functional in a few different ways. It looks cool, sure, but it can be functional for camouflage, but more importantly, this one here is completely waterproof. So it's going to be really important because you want to keep those clothes dry, bowstrings dry, and create some shelter if you need it in a pinch. So it's not just to look cool, this can actually be a good survival tool. Next is the bows, and for this video I have the 130-pound bow and the 165-pound bow. I'm going to be rocking with both of these, and I'm going to explain that in the video, but I think every ranger should have 2. I'd say some really sort of sharp dagger. I wouldn't say a sword per se, because you need something to be able to dig out arrows if they get stuck in tree, or if you have to clean out game that you shot. A dagger is going to be much better than a sword in that situation. Really, you shouldn't be getting that close anyways, I think. And lastly, and most importantly too, we have our arrows. Now when it comes to arrows, there's many different tools for the job. So I have a few different types here that we're going to test out. I'm going to show you the strengths for each one, what enemy types I think they would work for, and how they would function better than others. So here we have 2 different types of barbed arrowheads. So we have these 2 right here. Those are going to be really good against unarmored opponents. They work against horses, or let's say in a fantasy realm, something that's large like an orc or some sort of troll that would stick in there. They wouldn't be able to take it out, and that could cause extra damage over time because it's going to be able to create more lacerations because it's got a longer cutting edge. Then we have the standard leaf type arrow. That's going to be really good for unarmed opponents or people with light armor, padded gambesons. I'm going to try it against chainmail because I've never actually used this against chainmail, so I want to see how that does. And then we have our bodkin tips here for armored opponents. So if someone's coming around in plate or brigandine, this is going to be the one you're going to want to use. So I would say that it would be really smart to have a couple different variations of each in the quiver for each different situation, because again, you're not just going to be throwing off shots over and over. Each shot is realistically going to be something you're going to plan carefully and make sure it's the right time when you do it, so you have time to pick that right arrowhead. And then if things go crazy, you have other ones. But I would say the first shot should be very carefully planned with what type of arrowhead you're going to use. For the lightly armored opponent, we're just going to have a padded gambeson here. So someone's just walking around, bare minimum, or it's a surprise. This is what they have on their base. So this is where it's going to work with the leaf arrow and the barbed arrows, but I haven't shot those ones before, so let's see. So we're going to start off here with this extremely nasty looking fella here. This is a barbed arrow. So basically the point of this is that once it gets in, it's impossible to pull out without really deep incisions. So it's going to be stuck in the body. So if you were a ranger, this would be something you'd want to probably put a toxin in if you had access to toxins. But we're going to put this first against the padded gambeson as well. No surprise, it went through. Piece of cake. Now I just gotta figure out the best way to get this out. Let me pull it through. Aha, yes. Piece of cake. What I want to do next is see how the leaf type arrow and the barbed arrow do against flat riveted mail. So this is good mail here. You can see it's twined, it's 8mm, so it's thick. So it's gonna provide good resistance. The bodkin tips I know will go through relatively well, but I want to see how the other ones do because I've never tested those types against this. Okay, so that was actually a little bit surprising. I think the problem was that with this leaf type arrowhead, it is hardened steel, but it tapers down to a very narrow center point, and it's got such a massive head that I feel like when it hit, that even if it has just a little bit of bend in there on that impact, it's going to completely snap the head off like it did. So if it doesn't penetrate through, I think it's going to just obliterate the arrow. That's the good thing on the bodkin tips, is they're really hardy the whole way through with a really thick shaft all the way to the back. But these ones here, they're so top heavy that when it hits something, it's just bend and snap. So that was crazy. I lost where the top of it went. But I honestly thought that would work well against the riveted male, but it did not do super good. So that's a surprise right there. So I feel if you're getting to the point where you're getting to chainmail, any sort of arrowhead that's not a tapered bodkin point is not going to work well. So that just kind of reaffirms that that's why the bodkin tips were so effective, not necessarily against full plate armor, but definitely against male. And so now, just to kind of show the difference, let's take our bodkin points against that chainmail. Went through into the target, through the double padded gambeson, and broke all the links in the male. So you're really going to need something like this for any sort of armored opponent. As soon as it gets to male, this is going to be your bread and butter. Up to that, or anything that's not as highly armored, you're going to be fine with the barbs, and those would be good for certain situations indeed. But if someone's walking around with anything, you're going to want to stick with these. Okay, so next thing I want to test is an ambush against a well-armored opponent. Let's say a knight at arms, knight in shining armor, or just like a well-armored orc or heavily armored infantry. This right here is a tasset. So it goes right here. It hooks onto the cuirass. This is from Arm Street. This is 1.5 millimeter cold rolled steel. So if you're not familiar with cold rolled steel, it basically is run through a flattening press multiple times, hammered out. So it's stronger and more resilient. It's not as good as hardened steel, but it's still higher echelon. This is from Arm Street here. So I've never shot this before. I want to try with the 130-pound bow, and this is going to be like from an ambush distance. So it's not like across the map 180 yards. This is going to be close, set up an ambush, and I want to see how a bodkin tip will do against this armor, because I know very well the barbed or the leaf tips will not go through this, but let's see what happens. All right, so what do we got here? Okay, so it punched through it about that much, so that far in. What I want to do this time is I'm going to take one of the new arrows. So if you guys don't know, I got a batch of new arrows from Matthew. He makes them for me. I'll link his stuff down below. What I want to do this time is I'm going to use the 165, and I'm also going to use a newer arrow that was just made for me by Matthew. I'm going to include him down below. He's a great arrow maker, but I'm going to try that against this too. Same distance, ambush, heavier draw weight, probably a better arrow. Consider that a successful ambush? Not necessarily. The first arrow, unfortunately, it hit here at an angle, and so when you're dealing with steel that's actually much more resilient than just pure stainless steel, if it hits an angle, it's going to cause just a little bit of deflection, and it's going to go askew relatively quickly. The second shot with the 165 did much better, and that was with the needle tip. So that one here punched in that far through it, so that was enough to hit the male, but it didn't go through the padded gambeson. So it would certainly stick in there, cause some discomfort, but it's not enough to really disrupt someone entirely unless it's probably in the helmet or anything like that. So I would say that the ambush would startle you, but not just kill you outright. The armor is going to stop it. And so that's that. And the other one too, with the 135 is right here. So you can see that went in quite a bit less. The 165 really bumped up the penetration quite a bit, but still not like going through like butter or anything. For any of you guys say hardened steel, hardened steel, hardened steel, this is the bicep plate from Decretum. This is C60 1mm hardened steel. So this is gonna set up right over here. I've already done this test before. That punched into it about the same amount as the 1.5mm 16 gauge cold rolled steel. So you have the same amount of penetration between the two, which just goes to show me that's a consistent result. So I feel confident saying I can get maybe an inch into it, but it's not going through everything. So maybe if you had a poisoned arrow at that point, if it gets through enough, just pokes in through the gambeson just a little bit, you might get them. But if anything, if you pepper them enough, you'll probably hit a joint and a weak point. But if the problem is, if you're this close, you get like maybe 2 shots before they're on you. So they gotta be real good. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you enjoyed the video. This was a lot of fun in a different area. Still waiting for Sir Gaines. Oh, dude, what took you so long? And where's your armor?
It's hot. I couldn't carry all of it anymore.
Yeah, work on that cardio, big guy.
Yeah. Cardio's for chumps. Next time, we're gonna lift weights again. I'm never hiking again. And there's so many damn mosquitoes.
Work on that cardio. Well, everybody, that's the video. I hope if you learned anything from this video, it's not necessarily how to be a fantasy ranger, but more how to have fun as an adult. I think that so much of our lives is tied up in our inhibitions and everything, and it's okay to just goof off and be a big kid. You can have a job, you can have kids, you can be married, and you can still have fun and play make-believe. And I argue it makes you a better parent because you still have that childlike enthusiasm for fun. We filmed a couple more segments for this while I was in the forest. I did one on a fire pit, building a Dakota fire pit, which would be great for a ranger because it's a way to make a hidden fire if you need to boil water or anything. But it just didn't turn out great. I tried to film and use lights and everything. It looked terrible, so I cut that out. But building a fire is a very important key aspect, and doing it correctly so it can't be seen is really important. So Dakota fire pit's gonna be how you're gonna wanna do that. And then that's the video, guys. Until next time, be a big kid, let your inhibitions go, and play some make-believe and have some fun.